Gloria Vanderbilt, legendary fashion idol,
Legend.
has just passed away. We're just getting in. Have a look at her life. She's died at the age of 95.
Gloria Vanderbilt, my mom, lived her entire life in the public eye. Born in 1924, her father, Reginald Vanderbilt, was heir to the Vanderbilt Railroad fortune, but gambled away most of his inheritance and died when my mom was just a baby. Gloria Morgan Vanderbilt, her mother, wasn't ready to be a mom or a widow. My mom grew up in France, not knowing anything about the Vanderbilt family or the money that she would inherit when she turned 21. She had no idea the trouble that money would create.
And here's the first movie of little Gloria herself. Frightened by the curious crowd, she flees into her aunt's car. Money isn't everything.
When she was 10, her father's sister, Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney, sued to have my mom taken away from her own mother. It was a custody battle the likes of which the world had never seen. It was called the trial of the century, and it took place during the height of the Depression, making headlines every day for months. The court awarded custody of my mom to her Aunt Gertrude, whom she barely knew. The judge also fired the one person my mom truly loved and needed, her nanny, whom she called Dodo.
She was my mother, my father, she was everything. She was my lifeline, she was all I had.
As a teenager, she tried to avoid the spotlight, but reporters and cameramen would follow her everywhere. She was determined to make something of her life, determined to make a name for herself and find the love and family that she so desperately craved. At 17, against her aunt's wishes, she got married. She knew it was a mistake from the get-go.
Wedding bells at Santa Barbara's ancient Spanish mission. He is Pasquale Di Chico, Hollywood actor's agent, and is 32.
He was described as a Hollywood agent. Was he an agent?
Well, maybe at one point he was. He had been married to Thelma Todd, who was quite a well-known actress, and she died under mysterious circumstances. There were sort of rumors around that maybe he had killed her, you know.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So you got married to a guy who there were rumors that he had killed his former wife?
Yes.
Did that not seem to give you pause?
Well, I thought all he needs is me, you know, to...
Oh, God.
Sweetheart, I was only 17.
Okay, I know.
At 21, she married again and had 2 sons with the legendary conductor Leopold Stokowski.
This is what he looked like when you first met him?
Well, it's a terrible photograph of him, but he was 63 when I first met him and married him.
And was it something you, like, as soon as you saw him, you thought?
Instant.
Really?
I knew him for a week and married 3 weeks later.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And he was 63?
Yeah.
Wow. Did any of your friends think it was weird?
I don't know. I mean...
They didn't say anything.
Didn't matter to me.
The marriage lasted more than a decade. Then she met and married director Sidney Lumet, and then my father, writer Wyatt Cooper. Over the course of her life, my mom was photographed by all the great photographers. She worked as a painter, a writer, an actress, and designer.
Gloria, you're terrific.
If you were around in the early 1980s, it was pretty hard to miss the genes she helped create. But that was her public face, the one she learned to hide behind as a child. Her private self, her real self, that was more fascinating and more lovely than anything she showed the public. I always thought of her as a visitor from another world, a traveler stranded here who'd come from a distant star that burned out long ago. I always felt it was my job to try to protect her. She was the strongest person I've ever met, but she wasn't tough. She never developed a thick skin to protect herself from hurt. She wanted to feel it all. She wanted to feel life's pleasures, its pains as well. She trusted too freely, too completely, and suffered tremendous losses, but she always pressed on, always worked hard, always believed the best was yet to come.
You think the next great love is right around the corner?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there anyone I should know about right now?
No.
I think Ben Brantley said he's never met somebody over the age of 16 who loves being in love as much as you.
That's true. I think we should always be in love.
And she was always in love with men or with friends, or books and art, in love with her children and her grandchildren and then her great-grandchildren. Love is what she believed in more than anything. Earlier this month, we had to take her to the hospital. That's where she learned she had very advanced cancer in her stomach and that it had spread. When the doctor told her she had cancer, she was silent for a while, and then she said, "Well, it's like that old song, show me the way to get out of this world, because that's where everything is." Later, she made a joke, and we started giggling. I never knew that we had the exact same giggle. I recorded it, and it makes me giggle every time I watch it. Joseph Conrad wrote that we live as we die alone. He was wrong in my mom's case. Gloria Vanderbilt died as she lived, on her own terms. I know she hoped for a little more time, a few days or weeks at least. There were paintings she wanted to make, more books she wanted to read, more dreams to dream. But she was ready. She was ready to go.
Once upon a time.
She spent a lot of time alone in her head during her life, but when the end came, she was not alone. She was surrounded by beauty and by family and by friends. The last few weeks, every time I kissed her goodbye, I'd say, "I love you, Mom." She would look at me and say, "I love you too. You know that."
And I did.
And she was right. I did know that. I knew it from the moment I was born, and I'll know it for the rest of my life. And in the end, what greater gift can a mother give to her son? Gloria Vanderbilt was 95 years old when she died. What an extraordinary life. What an extraordinary mom. And what an incredible woman.
Goodness. She's, of course, the mother of our colleague, Anderson Cooper, and that was Anderson's voice there telling the most personal story possible, the story of losing your mother.
And now you know where Anderson got that laugh from his mom, as we see that video of them together. We have a statement from Anderson about his mother. We'd like to read it to you. Gloria Vanderbilt was an extraordinary woman who loved life and lived it on her own terms. She was a painter, a writer, a designer, but also a remarkable mother, wife, and friend.
She was 95 years old, but ask anyone close to her and they'd tell you she was the youngest person they knew, the coolest and most modern. She died this morning the way she wanted to, at home, surrounded by family and friends. Those are the words of our colleague Anderson Cooper on the loss of his mother. A remarkable life. Gloria Vanderbilt passed away at 95.
CNN anchor Anderson Cooper is in the middle of the action this political season. He's interviewing all the candidates and taking voters inside the issues. But now he's taking us all inside one of America's most famous family, his own. Anderson and his mom, heiress Gloria Vanderbilt, open up in a new book. It's called The Rainbow Comes and Goes, A Mother and a Son on Life, Love, and Loss. There's also a companion HBO documentary, Nothing Left Unsaid, where the 60 Minutes correspondent talks about losing his father and his brother.
I've grown my entire life thinking I'm exactly like my dad. I look a lot like him. But I realize now I'm very much my mom's son, and we're a lot alike in a lot of ways. Some people are sucked under by tragedy and loss, and it destroys them. And some people, it propels them forward. And I think it certainly has with my mom, and it certainly has with me.
Gloria Vanderbilt, famous since her birth 92 years ago, wow, to the multi-million-dollar Vanderbilt family, was the center of a bitter custody battle at the age of 10. She went on to establish herself as an artist, an author, and jeans designer. Who didn't have those jeans?
I love them.
I know. Didn't we like those,
Love
Nora?
them so much.
Gloria and Anderson join us both at the table. It's good to see you both.
Good morning.
I tell you, the book and the documentary left me with such longing because neither one of my parents are here. And I think anybody who reads this will think, I need to do this with my parents. But Anderson, it was interesting to me that you said for a long time you didn't want anybody to know that you were your mother's son. She was not a conventional mother to you.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, you know, I wanted people to know me as me, and particularly when I started in a career, I didn't want people thinking, you know, that name Vanderbilt has such baggage with it, has such history, and I'm very glad I don't have that name. And you know, my mom never felt much connection to the Vanderbilt family, and I certainly did, and I felt much more connected to my Cooper side, which is a family from Mississippi, kind of a poor family my dad grew up in. And I wanted that in my career. One day, I think it was one of the happiest days for my mom, she called me up and she said, somebody just referred to me as Anderson Cooper's mom. She was very happy that she's reached that stage of life.
How did the book come about?
Well, it really came about, sort of evolved by, we always email each other back and forth because Anderson's on the road so much. And how did it start?
Well, basically, I decided when my mom turned 91, you know, I realized that when my dad died when I was 10, I always had this fantasy that he had maybe written me a letter that would show up someday when I turned 18 or when I turned 21. And, of course, telling me all the things I didn't know about him and all the things that he wanted for my life. And, of course, there was no letter. But I realized when my mom turned 91, she had a brief illness, and I didn't want there to be that same feeling with my mom. I didn't want there to be anything left unsaid between us. And I think many adult children want that, you know, have an aging parent and don't really know fully about their parent. And it's nice to be able to, late in life, change your relationship with your parent. And I think for an adult to change their relationship with their child. And so it came about as through email largely, but it was all about trying to leave nothing unsaid between us.
Gloria, you talked to me 20 years ago in 1996.
I can't believe it's that far back, but
Take a look at this.
It was.
You talking then about your life. Here it is.
I think that without pain that we can't know what joy is, and that is very sustaining for me, because that is what life is, and without that if we don't have pain, we don't have joy, and if we don't have pain, we don't know that we're alive.
Boy, you've seen pain and joy.
Yeah, you know, I think you were a young cub reporter then, which was, well, it's great that you got that interview. Probably your first big interview back in '96, yeah.
But Gloria, you talk very candidly about the pain in the movie, in the book, and when you talk to Charlie, the death of a son, the death of your husband, the suicide of your son in front of you, the victim of a very bitter child custody battle when you were 10. Yet you still, as Anderson says, you're strong but not tough. You're vulnerable but still very present. You're still open and looking for love, even now.
Absolutely.
Tell us how you do that.
Well, I think it's in one's nature to be that way or not. And I think it's in my nature to, I don't know, I mean, I just...
You still think the next...
I'm hopeful. I mean, I think something wonderful is going to happen.
Well, you've had many lovers.
Really do.
You've had many lovers, Gloria Vanderbilt, and you write about that.
Errol Flynn, Frank Sinatra, Harold Hughes.
Howard Hughes.
Howard Hughes,
yeah.
And hot Howard Hughes, not crazy desert in Howard Hughes. Like Leonardo DiCaprio. Howard Hughes.
Well, better than that.
Oh, better? Oh, nice. Okay. I'm not sure I need to...
But it has been a romantic life for you.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I'm always in love.
Yes.
And I think everybody should always be in love. And if it's not, of course, a person is ideal. But if not, you have to be in love with, you have to have joy in looking at a flower and the sun.
And you still feel the next great love is right around the corner.
Yes, I do. I really do, and it's going to happen, you know.
Anderson, what
when
did
it
you
happens,
learn?
I'll tell you about it.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
What was the learning experience for you in this book?
You know, I think this is something that any adult kid can have with their parent, and I think with anybody in your life, it's never too late to change the relationship with somebody in your life. You just have to put aside sort of past resentments or embarrassments or all the things that we all have with parents growing up, and see the person in a new way. And I learned through the writing of this book, which is
essentially a conversation between us, between the time she was 91 and her 92nd birthday, just how similar we are. I mean, I always thought I was my dad's son, and we look alike. But I realized how similar. My mom and I both have the same drive, the same sort of relentless determination to move through whatever befalls us.
And you seem to have one of the coolest moms too, Anderson.
Oh, no doubt.
But you said you had trepidation about telling your mom that you were gay, and you would think your mom would be so open to that. Why would you be?
Well, because at the I was. I mean, I knew my mom ultimately would be cool with it because I remember something she said to me when I was 11 years old. We had she always had a lot of gay friends, and there was a couple. Jose Quintero, who was a famous Broadway theater director, was coming over with his partner Nick, and I remember asking my mom when I was 11 about them, and she said, "Well, they're a married couple." And this was 1979. Of course, most of the world did not think of a gay couple then as a married couple. But you know, my grandmother, my mom's mom was accused of being a lesbian at the height of this custody battle, the height of the Depression, and that was really a formative thing at the time, and it was a big scandal.
What's interesting is you talk about your mother inviting you to the dinner table.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and really treating you as an adult, so you met all these friends.
Right. That was the amazing thing about the way my mom and dad raised both my brother and I, is that we were part of the conversation. We were at the dinner table. There wasn't a kids' table. You know, my mom took us everywhere. She took me to Studio 54 twice when I was like 11 and 12.
What were you thinking?
Well, now explain.
Well, no, one was for a.
Sidney Lumet.
Yeah, no, one was for her business was having a party there. Grace Jones was performing, so she wanted me to see that. And the second was Sidney Lumet. It was the premiere of The Wiz.
Right. Was Charlie there?
No, but it was probably one of your rare nights off from there.
No, but Gloria, I thought it was interesting that you call Anderson Andy. I thought that was cool. And you
Occasionally.
Oh, you said to Andy, the longer you live, the more brilliantly you will soar. What I tried to say about your son.
Can you quickly tell us about the report card? Because books like this reveal things.
Yeah.
And that was such
we were talking about this before we went on the air, that my kindergarten, I've been going through these boxes.
Right.
This is what forms the basis of the HBO film, which is starting this Saturday, Nothing Left Unsaid. And it's me going through all these boxes that my mom has had in storage for years and years and years. One of the things I found was beyond all these letters from Howard Hughes and Frank Sinatra and Marlon Brando and all these people my mom has been involved with, was my kindergarten report card. And it's funny because I urge everyone to try to find their kindergarten report card because it all spells it out. For me, it was like the teacher wrote, Anderson enjoys his friendships with all the boys and tries to get their attention by bringing in costumes and toys. I'm like, she saw something.
Anderson still enjoys the attention of all the boys and tries to get their attention. Thank you, Anderson Cooper and
So great to have you here.
Gloria Vanderbilt.
great.
The Rainbow Comes and Goes is on sale now. The documentary Nothing Left Unsaid premieres Saturday on HBO. And they aren't just leaving yet because Anderson and Gloria are heading to our green room to chat with our Vladimir Dudier on Facebook Live. You can join that chat live by going to facebook.com/CBS This Morning. You are your mother's son?
I am lucky and I'm happy to be so.
And